All right, let's talk about Live Paint in Adobe Illustrator. Where Live Paint is very handy is when you have overlapping areas that aren't defined as being their own thing. You know, you didn't connect the dots, so to speak. You just have open-ended dots, like with these lines here. And if I have lines that intersect through these, and all I'm doing to make this stuff is just make one click and drag with the option key down makes copies. So I'm going to hold this like that. Okay, so now where these lines intersect, right now we couldn't color those with any of the normal style features inside of Illustrator. But with Live Paint we can. So here's how you work Live Paint. You select the area that you want to make a Live Paint object. You go over to the tools on the left side, and it is housed in with the shape builder tool. So sometimes it's tough to find. So if you happen to find shape builder, you know you're in the right spot. Hold that down, grab the Live Paint bucket tool. With that selected, as soon as you click anywhere near that, that becomes a Live Paint object. Now the next thing is, how do you paint it? Well, you paint it with this paint bucket, but there's a couple little tricks about it. Is if you're working with fills, which is usually what you are trying to change when you do this paint bucket option, you want to make sure that your fill icon is forward here, not the stroke icon, because you want to be able to pick a fill color. So you bring the fill forward, go over to the swatches, and wherever you click in the swatches, not only becomes the color you're going to fill, but it also follows what's happening here. So what I mean is, if you look at this little color swatch that's hovering over the top of my paint bucket, you can see that to the left of it is the green color. And if I keep scrolling over to the left, you see that if you watch this right here and this at the same time, you can see that I'm scrolling through all the colors in my palette. So that's kind of nice, because you can set up custom swatches that you want to use inside of here, and then just be able to go through them and very quickly color. So let me go ahead and throw some color in here. So wherever we have an overlapping area is where I can now color. So I'm just clicking, clicking, clicking. Now I can't click here because this is not a closed area. There are options that you can set. You go up to Object, Live Paint, and there's a gap options in there, and then you can select how big of a gap that you would want to be able to fill. For now, I'm just going to stick with ones that are closed. I'm switching colors by hitting my arrow key on the keyboard. I'm going to do that again. Switch into yet another color, and then I'm going to do it one more time here, and I have two here that I can fill in. So there is this thing filled in. This may not be very useful to you as it stands right now, but if you wanted these individual pieces, there is actually a way that you can get at those. Oh, and before I show you that, let me just say, like, if you wanted it just exactly like this, but you wanted to get rid of these strokes, then you'd simply just select the whole entire thing, bring the stroke forward, click on the none option, and you're down to just the colors. But they, once again, are all locked together. But once you're done in Live Paint, if you want to get individual control of these boxes, you can. And I'll show you exactly how much individual control you get by putting back on the stroke here. So we have the strokes and the fills that we've created in Live Paint. What we do is we click on it to select it. We go to Object, we go to Live Paint, and what we're after is the option here of Expand. Now, while I'm here, I'll just show you, this was the gap options that I referred to earlier. So Object, Live Paint, Expand, click on that, And you may have to do this in a couple steps depending on what your artwork consists of. Like right now what I did by expanding this is, well, actually this is one of my pet peeves about illustrators. I think whenever you expand something, it's usually because you want to gain individual control over it, but they group the items together. So before I can show you that, you have to go to Object, Ungroup. Okay, so now we may have a couple different groups here. When I click on this and drag, yeah, indeed we do. So this is one group, this is another grouping. Now you can see I still can't get an individual piece there, but if I ungroup one more time, I should be able to. So if I go Object, Ungroup, now I have individual access to these pieces. So that's a pretty quick and powerful way to create this artwork. And it is now indeed just like any other shape that you would create in Illustrator. You can, edit it in any way possible. You could put a stroke on here if you wanted to. Just, come over here, bring the stroke forward, click on a color for the stroke, just so you can see that I really did put a stroke on there. I'll make it much bigger. Yeah, so just about anything, well, not just about anything, anything that you could do to a shape that you drew or made with the shape tools, you could do to these. Let me just show you one other thing that you can do with this Live Paint. Let's say that you had these shapes that you made on your own, like in this case I'm just going to make some circles. Hold down the shift key and let's change this so that it has a stroke on it and no fill, just so they're a little bit easier to see. So it doesn't have to be straight lines, just anything that intersects at all gives you a live paint option. So if I select these, once again go over here, select this paint bucket tool. As soon as I click on it, they become paint bucket options, and same situation where I would need to come over here, make sure that this stroke is forward, and I would be able to color these in as I go through here. But you can also color the stroke with these. So let me give it a pretty hefty stroke here so it's easy for us to see what's going on. The thing that you have to remember, since you're working with the stroke, is you need to bring the stroke forward here on the icons. Then, just like you did with the fills, come over here, pick a section in here that you want the fills to be based on. Once again, grab that Live Paint Bucket tool. Now the big difference here is that you have to hold down the Shift key to be able to do the strokes. That's how it is by default. You can actually go into the options menu and change that. Now as soon as no, that's normal. As soon as I release it, it goes back to the browns, but as soon as I put the Shift key down, it goes back to the colors that I have selected for the strokes. Again, I can hit the arrow key, scroll through, but look at how it even the strokes, it respects the inner sections between them. And then once again I could select this whole entire thing and go up to Object and expand it, and I would be able to grab all the individual pieces that we've made here. So a fairly powerful tool.